like a Hellcat.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you did it. I got the single comment. One comment. We're 220 views in and one comment. No, one comment. Wasn't first. Wasn't I'm for. Wasn't anything like that. It was, can you read it, please? Damn it, fine, I'll read it. You're gonna have to suffer with me, so this only reflects badly on you guys, not on me. So, Overwatch, Stone by Stone, short story by Christine Golden. She apparently has worked on like a bunch of World of Warcraft fiction, stuff like that, so apparently she's good with Blizzard. Alright, let's get ready. I don't suppose, Sanjay Corporal asked hopefully, that there was a convenient earthquake. For a moment, Satya Viswani wondered if it was a metaphor, but no. Sanjay, one of Vishkar's corporation's finest negotiators, was speaking literally. No seismic activity whatsoever, said Arita Patel, their head geologist. That's why we broke ground where we did. Remember, I did warn you. Could there have been a convenient earthquake? Arita looked increasingly distressed. Unfortunately, it's clear cause and effect. Our development was aggressive too much too soon. The vibrations from the concentrated construction are directly responsible for the damage. Everyone is very angry, sir. Sanjay sighed. For so long we've tried to get a foothold over there. We didn't need this inconvenience so soon after Rio. We was of course Vishkar Corporation. Over there referred to the city of Chinese underdeveloped section across the river. An inconvenience referred to the image Satya now regarded. Small hologram covered over the table. The image shifted back and forth from what it had been. A stone omnic seated cross-legged upon lotus blossom, hands pressed together in front of the chest. The chunks of stone surrounding a headless lower torso. Oh, it's more than an inconvenience, sir. PR rep Tamara Chada, I can't read these names, man. Why'd you do this to me? Said, this could jeopardize the entire contract. It's not just physical damage. Sanjay's right. The entire event will be perceived as an insult if we don't fix this. And fix it perfectly. We can kiss any further development in the area goodbye. Fortunately, Sanjay said, turning to Satya, we have the premier hardlight architect in the world right here at Vishkar. You were born in a small village like Turvasa, Satya. Of course you'd volunteer to help, right? It was a rhetorical question and Satya knew it. If we don't put you on this quickly, immediately, Tamara interjected, yesterday, we're going to lose this window. We've got to give oh my gosh, I can't pronounce names. Something important to show how upset we are that we accidentally damaged something so precious to them. We are not upset about that, Satya thought, but did not say. She had gotten used to this at Vishkar. We'll send you over now, Sanjay said. Find out what they want. A retreat center, a nice lump sum of repairs. I'll even rebuild the temple ourselves. Whatever it costs. It's a drop in the bucket compared to the loss of developments right. So they destroyed one of the I think they destroyed a Shambhali temple. That's what I'm thinking. That's what it's reading like. They destroyed his Shambhali temple. How dare they? Drop in the bucket was one of those phrases like kissing a development goodbye had confused Satya when she was younger. There was no bucket, no drop, and certainly no kissing. Now, though, she had learned to, what was the saying, roll with the punches. Who was the figure of? Satya asked, looking again at the hologram, at the broken neck and severed hands. She looked away, disorder. Sanjay looked at Tamaria. Aurora, Tamaria said, consulting her notes. Aurora, the first sentient omnic who sacrificed herself in order to grant sentience to all others. So she's omnic Jesus. I like that. She was more than simply a famous omnic, Satya said. They will not want money. We must offer something better. It's your job to find that and make it happen, Satya, Sanjay said. He gave her one of his warm smiles, his eyes kind. I know you can. Do whatever it takes. He's freaking Talon. Why is he being so nice? Don't trust him. He's Talon. He's a bad guy. We want nothing to do with Vishkar Corporation, said our Panch Rashid. Oh my god, what is these I can't read these names. I'm illiterate. I'm illiterate in English, especially in names that aren't English names. The head of the local government of Servasa. You've done enough. Word had somehow gotten out about Satya's arrival and mission. Rewal, along with a small, scowling crowd, had gathered to confront her, while the coral-painted stone walls threw shadow in the other areas. The village and the interlopers stood in the sunken, checkerboard-filled courtyard outside of the temple's entrance. Here, the sun beat down mercilessly, and the golden domes of the temple gleamed so bright, one couldn't look directly at them. Gerwald's face was drawn in lines of anger, an emotion reflected in his other faces. There were a few omnics toward the back, at least they were not shouting at her. It is because of what happened that I offer my aid, Satya said. To do what? Build a skyscraper of glittering blue hardlight? You think it's what we want? I don't know what you want, Satya said simply. Of course you don't, someone cried. Vishkar doesn't care, yelled someone else. I care, Satya said. Thought of the shattered statue, broken and headless, was embedded in her thoughts. May I at least enter the temple? When the Sarpanch hesitated, she added, I thought that all were welcome here. Haha, using their logic against them. Nice one, Sim. Only Omnics in the back, clad in a simple robe, extended is this Zenyatta? I think Zenyatta. I think it's Zenyatta. Extended an arm toward the temple. Satya nodded her appreciation, stepped through the open wooden door, still feeling the eye of the angry crowd booing into her back. Inside the temple, it was lit only by candlelight, and noticeably cooler. The walls were not painted with the same warm coral hue as the exterior, instead decorated with bas-relief carvings of fish and tigers. I'm not sure what bas-relief is. I'm an art major, I should know that. There were places where the stone had broken, shaken by quakes, and settled. Cracks that barred the walls, ceilings, and stones. A faint smell permeated the area, as if the stone had absorbed the scent. Incense. The fragrance evoked the one good thing about her childhood, the occasional visits to the peaceful temples. They had been so rare she had all but forgotten them. It is true that you don't know what we want. The voice was metallic and definitely not human. Part of it was jarring, like nails on chalkboard, but the undertone was soothing. The Omnic that's a great way to describe Zenyatta's voice. The Omnic who fell into step beside her was the same one who had granted her permission to enter. No one knows what another wants without getting to know them first. Are you a priest here? Satya inquired. Only a pilgrim. My name is Zenyatta. My name is Zenyatta. Vishkar, taking responsibility is a gracious thing, but it means nothing if the help is not actually helpful. I would certainly like it to be. They continued down the corridor. If you wish, I can assist you in understanding our people, our faith, our community. You're welcome to stay with us. Stay? Words came out more harshly than Satya intended. Here? Thoughts of the desperate poverty of her childhood splattered across her mind's eye. The stench, the press of the people, the empty bellies, the murky drinking water, helplessness of her parents to do anything about it. At the temple, Zenyatta said. As pilgrims do. I'm not a pilgrim, Satya replied. I'm an architect. She was here to do a job. It was important that they understand this. Is this development leading to, like, Symmetra helping get... Okay, that might be cool. Symmetra and Genji working together as students in Zenyatta and Overwatch 2. That'd be cool. Alright, let's go back to the story. I keep on getting sidetracked. Zenyatta lifted his metallic arms in a shrug. What is a pilgrim but someone who has embarked on a journey to a holy place? The word itself does not matter. Will you, Satya Vaswani, stay? The invitation made Satya anxious. She had set routines which ensured there would always be order and calm in some part of her life. Even in hotels, Satya had time alone and cleaved her own routines as much as possible. Zenyatta continued. You have a reputation of designing appropriately for a building's purpose. There is no shame in not understanding this temple's purpose. Vaswani. Everyone begins in ignorance. Satya couldn't argue with his reasoning. She knew about Aurora, but not the way the Omnics did. When Sanjay had suggested a retreat center or simply money, she had known instinctively that wouldn't work. It seems declining this invitation wouldn't work either. I will try, she said. The birth of All ventures of willingness to try, Zenyatta said. Man, he's very wise. I like him. The corridor opened into a pleasant winding path. Trees provided welcome shade. The Omnic priest approached, nodding politely at Satya, then bowing to Zenyatta. Peace to Kartha, he said, then continued. Satya regarded Zenyatta. Only a pilgrim? She said. One might think you were in charge. No one is ever truly in charge, he responded with a reverberating chuckle. Of anything. I returned here recently intending to meditate on the teachings of my master, Kartha Mandata. But in meeting you, I see there was another purpose awaiting me. I know about Mandata. He was killed, Satya replied. Yes, Zenyatta recalled. Yes, Zenyatta replied, seemingly untroubled by her blunt statement. Before that, I did not realize Omnics could die. You are machines. I had assumed you could replace parts. In theory, yes, but replacement parts have yet to be found for a soul, be it human or Omnic. Did Omnics have a soul? That was a very large question, and Satya needed time to think about it. She returned to the subject of Mandata. He was assassinated, she continued. I did not understand why. He was not inciting violence. Mandata deplored violence. Many, including myself, believed he was killed by those who disapprove of building bridges between humans and Omnics. Building? Oh, first bridge that came to my head was a literal one. I too was quite literal at first. Although Omnics share sentience with humans, I found them so perplexing. They would say things such as lend a hand. So he didn't get it either. Or cat's got your tongue. But their hands were flesh, not metal. How could they lend one? How might a cat obtain their tongue? Were tongues attachable? I had some very interesting pictures in my head for a long time. I love the imagery here. The author's excellent. Satya laughed, confiding. That still happens to me sometimes. He bent his shining head close to her and whispered conspiratorially, me too. I love Zenyatta. He's such a cool character. I'm so glad he finally has lore. The path culminated at a set of steps leading to a large, domed area that was clearly the main shrine. The dais upon which the statue had sat was ringed with a small pool, pathways leading directly to the figure. Other pilgrims, some humans, most Omnics, sat on pillows, their bodies in the same position as the statue, or rather, as the statue had been. Satya felt uneasy as she regarded the debris. It was one thing to see a small holographic depiction of it in the clean, almost sterile Vishkar Corporation boardroom. It was another to see a writ large, very large indeed, and in front of her eyes. She took in the shattered arms and broken head. Satya realized the Vishkar had sent her here so quickly that a complete cleanup had not yet occurred. It must have stressed you, she said. See your deity broken like this. Aurora is not a deity, Zenyatta corrected gently. She was just like us, except she was the first. Satya tried to focus on the statue's face and not the damage and dust all around. You do not pray to her? No, Zenyatta said. We reflect on her life and death. We offer gratitude for her sacrifice and the gifts she gave us. The statue was a good likeness of her, but it did not capture who she was. Aurora was curious. She wanted to learn about the world and its people. So is Aurora now technically the Iris? I'm confused. She gave her life to give sapience to all the other Omnics, so maybe, I don't know. To understand what makes humans human, Satya said. Zenyatta nodded. The first of us to struggle with that, and we still struggle from time to time. All Omnics see a bit of ourselves in her. So do I, Satya thought, but did not say. What would it be like to be the first Omnic? To abruptly have self-awareness thrust upon her, trying to make sense of everything. It must have been nearly impossible with no precedent to follow. Her way, your way of thinking must have been so very different from ours. People do not need to understand how someone thinks in order to respect or even love them, or simply to be a friend. The temple was a place where Aurora was welcomed, accepted as she was, with no judgment. But she did not stay. No, the reverberating metallic voice was sad, and Zenyatta's head dropped slightly. Aurora had another destiny, another journey, one that many others have taken since. Did you know that this temple is now the first stop on the pilgrimage inspired by her? I did not. Aurora grew with each place she visited, each person she met. Her physical journey took her to Shambhala, her spiritual one to a place of such selflessness that she would sacrifice herself in a mere chance that we too could also experience sentience. Wait, she did not know it would work? Satya was surprised. Self-sacrifice for others was always notable, choosing the path without certainty, knowing that, fail or succeed, she would be lost, made Aurora perhaps the most courageous individual Satya ever heard of. Zenyatta shook his head. No one could be sure. It was possible she could die in the attempt, and any chance of omnic sentience would die with her. So perhaps now you better understand why you were so devastated when her statue was destroyed by the company's development. Vishkar made things better for everyone. The words came quickly, automatically. I have worked on many projects that have improved lives by providing homes, clean drinking water, clinics, luxury retreats, exclusive clubs, condominiums with prices as high as the skyscrapers that contain them. I'm certain you have, Zenyatta replied. Helping people can take many forms. It is important that you are happy. She floated Sanjay's suggestion, just to make sure. Perhaps a retreat center or a new temple entirely. We welcome all visitors, of course, Zenyatta. His gaze not on her, but on the ruined statue. But in my life's journey, I have seen too many things of beauty, of true spirit, become more tourist attractions and sacred spaces. Those who are meant to come here will. Their paths will be laid for them, stone by stone, as they walk it. As for the temple, this one still serves. While there is an energy in the new, there is power in the ancient, Satya, even if it is fragile. When we are deep in meditation, we can almost hear the whispers of the myriad voices spoken within the walls over the last 1,000 or more years. Smell of incense, offered with love from many hands. A soft chime interrupted her train of thought. Ah, Zenyatta said. Time for the midday meal. Good place to begin your stay. He cocked his head, reading her expression accurately. I regret that my solution, having you stay here, distresses you. We find great comfort and purpose in our routines. I do too, Satya said, adding as politely as she could, my own, that is. It means much that you're willing to undergo discomfort to fully embrace this project. Perhaps you will resonate with our routines. They're not difficult, and they occupy the body while filling the heart and mind. But first, let us fill your stomach. Upon entering the dining area, Satya paused. The scent of marind and turmeric. I can't pronounce any of these words. These and other spices, along with incense permeating temple, combined into a powerfully nostalgic perfume. The food was simple but delicious, vegetarian fare. Rice, legumes, vegetables, cheese, milk. The omnics, of course, could not eat, yet food was wonderful. How did you manage to cook something so delicious without the ability to taste it? She asked Zenyatta. We learned that in some traditions, priests were forbidden to taste the food as they cooked it. Instead, they meditated on what they served and how to best prepare it. We realized we had to adopt the tradition. Our omnic priests study local ingredients to understand how humans perceive them, and then we, too, ask for guidance in their use. That's pretty cool. Given that, frankly, I'm amazed it's not terrible. So, we're our first guests, Zenyatta said and laughed. He liked his laugh, that he was able to do so freely, at himself or at the absurdity of other things. Tell me more about your faith. He inclined his head. As you know, Aurora wished to discover the world, and how she might fit into it, to discover who she was. Many faiths center around the search for enlightenment, as Satya said. That search lies at the heart of ours. When Aurora sacrificed herself, she transcended this existence, this way of being, and we strive to emulate her, experience through meditation. What happened to her? Zenyatta hesitated for a moment. Only a handful of people in her physical presence bore witness to what occurred. And over time, of course, the mystery has only grown deeper. It is said that she was engulfed in a great golden light. She expanded. We strive to reach that place, that level of being we call the iris. There we are all one. So whenever he experiences tranquility, he is temporarily going into the iris. This is all very confusing. I want to understand more. And so you shall. Once you've finished eating, I will show you more. After Satya was done, Zenyatta led her to another part of the temple. There, lit by the flickering of many candles, was a bas-relief of the moment of Aurora's transcendence. Satya peered at it. Unlike the original statue, the figure was depicted as having 8 arms. 2 hands pressed together in the heart symbol. Over her heart, a symbol in many cultures of love and respect for oneself in the universe. The other hand seemed to be reaching out for small orbs. Behind the figure was a much larger sphere. Satya trailed her fingers over the cool, rough stone, curious. The Omnic monk leaned forward to tap Aurora's image gently, from 1 to many. He indicated the arms. We are all so much more than one simple thing, but also many. And he brought his fingers back to the seated figure and become one. You are all one in the iris, Satya said softly. Exactly. We are all so much more than one simple thing. When Satya retired, she was directed to one of the small outlying buildings, open to the air and near a large pool filled with lotuses. There she was given a simple sleeping mat and a folded temple robe. She regarded it for a long moment. There was already so much that was different. She wanted to control what she could. She should honor the temple's traditions, but she was deeply reluctant to change her appearance, and she had told Zenyatta that she had not come as a pilgrim. The golden rust color appealed to her, though. The texture was pleasant. Satya knew what she had to do. The next morning, Zenyatta greeted her warmly when she entered the shrine to begin her first full day at the temple. No, it just says her full day at the temple. I'm glad you chose to wear the robe, he said. I did not want to, Satya told him, but I felt I needed to do it to show I truly wished to help. Ah, Zenyatta said. That I never doubted. The days unfolded in a pattern that Satya initially found difficult. Upon rising, she and the pilgrims helped the priest tidy up the main shrine, picking up smaller pieces of stone, then sweeping the area. Satya was told that a team of workers would be arriving in a few days, and the larger, much heavier pieces would be removed. What pieces remained were cleansed with water, and flowers were scattered all around them. Pilgrims broke their fast, then settled on pillows, where Satya first followed their lead. When Satya first followed their lead, she was anticipating the priest would ask her to meditate. It was a practice she had attempted in the past, but had found it challenging. She was surprised when they gave the pilgrims each a metallic sphere to fit into the palms of their hands. These are the spheres we ourselves meditated upon, Zenyatta told him, like those bas-reliefs. He nodded. I think for you, the orb of perception, so that I might best perceive what you need, he said, neither agreeing nor disagreeing. Move the orb from one hand to another. Focus on its weight, how it feels, how it moves. You know what? I'm gonna pause real quick. What if one of Symmetra's co-op upgrades is the orb of perception, and it modifies her turrets to detect people that are around it? That might be cool. Soon the midday meal was served. Then more chores, more meditation with the orbs, and finally sleep. At some point during the few days, Satya realized her body had adapted to the thin mat on the stone floor. The robe had become comfortable, familiar, and she liked the smoothness of it against her skin. When she felt anxious, wanting to shift positions or do something with her hands, she rolled the orb back and forth. She wondered at her unusually strong appetite, and asked Zenyatta about it. You are paying active attention to it, he said, just as you're paying attention to the rituals, the orb meditation, simple chores, he chuckled, our conversations. The 4th day, she accompanied the priests into the center of the village, where they would prepare meals for everyone who was hungry. While ladling lentils over fragrant rice, Satya observed how Zenyatta and the other Omnics interacted with villagers. They seemed genuinely delighted to see the priest. There were many conversations about the temple, about the iris, about how their friends, as people clearly viewed all the priests, were doing. There were also initially frowning, angry looks thrown Satya's way, mutters that were clearly meant to be overheard. Zenyatta, upon hearing these mutters, stepped beside Satya. He said nothing, simply taking another spoon and serving alongside her. Some of the looks softened. Satya was not offended by their reactions, but appreciated Zenyatta's silent support. Later, after evening meditations, meditation on the orbs, Zenyatta asked Satya to stay after the others left. She shifted uneasily on the pillow. Every time she saw the ruined chunks of the statue, she wanted to do something about it. Did you enjoy your work today? Yes, although it is distressing to see so many still hungry. She thought again about her childhood. Zenyatta nodded somberly and sighed. And what happened after they ate? And during? They talked, shared, and laughed. She knew that there was so much to fear, to resent, to be angry about, and yet they laughed. The food was made with care and offered freely. They did not have to give us money or even share our faith. Doesn't matter. We are connected. He gestured to the statue. We have been doing this since Aurora stopped here, so many years ago. They are nourished, Satya said. Her fingers shifted to the perception orb from one hand to the other, trying to keep up with her flying thoughts, not just by food. There are many ways to feed that which hungers, Satya. Food is the most important, she said, practically. It is indeed, he agreed. If you tend to the body, the mind is freer, open, ready to change and learn. The orb was smooth in her hands. She looked down at it. We're hardlight architects. We gather what we sense and bring it into being. Most of us use very precise movements. Exact. I can appreciate that, but at the same time, I've always found it hard to sit still. The orb rolled from hand to the other. But when I create, I use like dance movements. As a child, when I felt agitated, dancing calmed me. I find the meditations with this, she indicated to the orb, calmed me too. Satya avoided his gaze. She did not often discuss how personal the craft was to her. Well, she amended, I use what I remember of the dance motions. My movements are far from perfect. And yet, you dance to weave light, Zenyatta said. You bend reality, Satya, to produce art that has purpose. Perfect art is sterile. True art is like any kind of true thing, flawed. Glorious because of those flaws, just as we are. He continued, his metallic voice warm. There is a Japanese aesthetic philosophy called wabi-sabi. Essentially, it means that imperfections should be embraced and appreciated. Nature is not perfect. Certainly, art should not be. There's even an art form that embodies this philosophy, kintsugi. You know what? He probably learned these from Genji. It means golden joinery? Golden joinery, I think? Where ceramics are broken and pieced back together and mended with gold. Kintsugi urges us to think differently. Instead of hiding something broken, celebrate it. Your passion for what you do elevates architecture beyond simple construction. Without blemishes, a house is just a building. Flaws and joys are what make it a home. Your dancing may be imperfect, but imagination, creativity, these things are not unharmonious with faith. They are expressions of it. As a matter of fact, there is a story of the universe itself. We danced into being. Satya had not been old enough to really understand faith and religion before she had been selected by Vishkar Corporation and trained as a hardlight architect. This, oh, how she wished she had heard it, or now. How beautiful, Satya, Zenyatta said very softly, almost reverently. How fitting that you chose to come here to help heal a holy place. You already touched the sacred. Satya had never felt so understood, so vulnerable, and yet so strong. She wanted to shout, laugh, dance, cry, sing, but did none of these things. Instead, she blinked back the tears, nodded her thanks at Zenyatta, and turned her eyes to pieces of the broken statue. Your perception floating between her hands. Is she levitating it now? I wonder if she's levitating. That'd be really cool. She's basically a Shambhala monk now. That'd be hilarious. Now she understood why Zenyatta had selected this particular orb. Perception orb did mean understanding, but it meant understanding through senses. Smoothness of the orb, the smell of incense, the taste of food mindfully prepared, the sound of soft voices, and the sight of something beautiful. I believe, she said quietly, I know what to do, but I'm not sure there's enough time. We must begin at once. We? Yes, union, she said, and realized she was smiling. It had taken almost every waking hour of the day that remained of Satya's stay, but she was ready for what Sanjay called the unveiling, although there was no veil. When Satya began to dress for the big event, she automatically reached for purple and white corporate uniform she had first arrived in. Then she paused, regarding instead the golden rust robe she had worn during her stay. Zenyatta was waiting to accompany her to the courtyard. When she emerged, he seemed surprised. But you're not a pilgrim. But you are not a pilgrim? he said, referring to the temple robe she wore. What is a pilgrim but someone who has embarked on a journey to a holy place? She said, quoting his own words. It is true that I did not intend to become one, yet here I am. This, and she indicated the robe, is the woman who learned about Aurora. So this is who I wish to be when I present the work to the world. Perhaps I will be her more often going forward, too. You have taught me that much in this world is sacred, even if at first seems ordinary. And there is always more to learn, especially from good teachers. Satya did not think she would ever learn to read the subtle changes that conveyed Omnic's emotions, but she felt there was no other word for it, that Zenyatta was deeply moved. She and Zenyatta now stood in the same courtyard where the Starfanch Renish Gruwald, God, I'm bad at this, had admonished Satya a week ago. He was here now, too, along with the temple priests, pilgrims, villagers, and others. He still looked like he didn't trust her. So came an amiable voice. No retreat center then? Satya turned, surprised that Sanjay had come in person to the event. You will see, she said. He peered at her but nodded. All right. Mari from PR is still standing by for damage control. I do not think we will need it. Someone is going to have a problem with something. They always do. You know that. He wasn't wrong, but Satya was not worried. I have done my research and I'm confident in my design choice. He turned to face the group. Please follow me, was all she said. She led them through a corridor, hearing a soft murmuring as the crowd noticed rotations of gold on the walls and ceiling where gaping cracks and holes had been. The missing chunks and the fractures and fissures. The wounds placed, all repaired, cemented with honey-hued light. Not hidden, but in plain sight. So she used plain fallacy. So she used gold hard light. You know what? If this skin, if her abilities and stuff aren't gold, I might be a little upset. I wonder. I can't wait for tomorrow. I really want to see what her turrets look like. Kintsugi, golden joinery. There's an energy in the new, but there is power in the ancient. Blood in the veins, electrical currents, sinews that tie things together. The group was quiet as they walked the path to the shrine's entrance. Satya paused at the steps and took a deep breath. Vishkar Corporation accepts responsibility for the damage we unintentionally inflicted upon this temple, she said. I was invited by Takartha Zenyatta to stay, learn about Omnic history and their faith, about Aurora. You have seen how I have offered care to the temple itself. Now I will show you my perception of Omnics, people of Servasa, Aurora, and her temple. How I see Mandata, art. How I see myself. We were all one in the iris. She had been one with others too, in a way, over the last few days. Aurora's statue had not been restored by her efforts alone. Satya had spoken with the laborers who had come intending to remove huge stone chunks, inviting them instead to help reassemble them. They, the priests and the pilgrims, had all worked beside her while her hard light mended what had been broken. And so the statue had not been replaced, it had been transformed. Sunlight bathed it in liquid gold. The enormous fragments had been toppled due to Vishkar's negligence, were united by rivulets of irit light. God, please help me read. A necklace of steaming gold marked that joint of bowed head and throat. Hard light also graced the once fractured folds of the clothing. Bound articulated fingers again to the hand that pressed together in devotion. Satya had been moved by the iris's concept of unity, but Aurora's story of transcendence touched her even more deeply. Satya's work here was not yet done. She lifted her arms, settled herself, and began to weave. She reached into the empty air, fingertips sensing, grasping, pulling, shifting the orb back and forth, shifting perception. Stretching the thin strands of golden-hued light between her fingers, gathering radiant threads into a ball. Satya thought of the wonder Aurora might have known, of her confusion and discomfort, and the great love that enabled the first Omnic to surrender her unique, precious life for others. Now Satya too surrendered to her art, her passion, and the dance of creation. She moved rapidly. 8 small orbs appeared, one for each of the coalescing, delicate arms that looked like shadows of gold, and two above the statue's head on either side. One set of arms reached down to lift the others. The middle set was spread wide to bless the welcoming seekers, and the final two hands pressed their palms together over the head, echoing the position of those over the heart. Unity. One last thing. For the final time, she began to weave light into threads so thin that as she directed them whirling around the statue, they were almost transparent, so thin as to slip beneath the statue's heavy base. Rings of seeming fire laid upon themselves, encircling the statue with large radiant orbs. Satya raised her hands. There was an audible gasp in the shrine as the heavy statue began to rise from the lotus flower base, borne aloft by translucent golden spheres of heart light. Satya exhaled a deep breath and lowered her arms. Utter silence, and then soft murmuring. Slowly, will move towards the hovering statue encased in heartlight orbs, their upturned faces bathed in the light. This was Swanee. She turned at the voice. It was the guy whose name I can't pronounce, stood beside her, smiling. "Forgive me, I misjudged you. This couldn't be more perfect." "Yes, it could," Satya said. "That's precisely the point." He looked at her, amused, as she nodded politely and threaded her way through the crowd. It was already starting to feel too close for her. Zenyatta awaited her outside. He handed her a small box. "Remember us by a scent wafted up incense." "Thank you," she said. "Nothing could be better." "You're always welcome here," he said. To the approaching Sanjay, he remarked, "Every dawn brings a new chance to choose our path. I hope Vishkar Corporation sees that." He bowed, then turned, heading back to the courtyard. Sanjay's gaze followed him. "Your choice," Sanjay said, turning back to Satya. "Not what I expected. Are you disappointed?" He shook his head. His brow frowned, but not in anger, in puzzlement. "Actually, no. I said I'd give them whatever they wanted, and you did. Beautiful, Satya. Exactly right. Although, why did you choose yellow light instead of blue?" It is how the moment was described to me," he said. "Also, blue is a beautiful color, but it is cold. This temple is depicted to remembering the ultimate act of love, sacrifice. Love is warm." And like that is really pretty artwork. I like it. People are now looking in her direction, smiling. Anyway, it did not escape Sanjay's notice. "Seems you've left a bit of yourself here. Will you miss this place?" I will miss being with people who think almost the same as I do," Satya. "But I have learned that we do not need to understand how someone thinks in order to respect them, or even," he thought, "to be their friend. It's enough for me to know this temple is here like this. Paths will be laid for them, stone by stone, as they walk it." She turned to Sanjay's face. "This should be how we interact, with respect, as welcomed friends, trying to understand and be understood. There is much that Vishkar can do here, but it must perceive how to do it." Sanjay seemed perplexed, turning back to look at the shining statue that was the same as it had been, yet so very different. "I think," said Sanjay Corporal, in a voice that was soft, almost surprised, "you might be right." Are we about to see Sanjay's redemption arc from working for Talon to not working for Talon? Because that's kind of weird. A little bit of a note here. If Genji and Symmetra are both technically students of Zenyatta, that means Zenyatta is coaching both sides of the Overwatch Talon war. It's kind of funny. But yeah, here's the skin. I really want to see what the turret and teleport look like. I don't think they're going to be changed that much because it's probably going to be an epic skin. I would really love for the teleporter to resemble like one of Zenyatta's orbs, or not the teleporter, the burst to sort of resemble one of Zenyatta's orbs. Probably not going to happen. Maybe wishful thinking, but oh well. What did you guys think about me struggling through the story the whole time? Feel free to let me know your opinions in the comment section down below as always. Thank you all for watching. Let's find a good picture. Thank you all for watching. Ooh, that one's nice. That's the second time I said that. Thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more content. You can follow me on my socials. To keep up to date with the channel, go to Discord, join the conversation Patreon if you feel like supporting me. This is EmeraldAvengerG. Have a nice day. Stay safe. Peace out.